how does Israel dialogue with Hamas? I think, you know, what's the famous quote? I mean, who do you make peace with? Your enemies. You don't need to make peace with your friends. They're your friends. And I think a good, and you know what, there is dialogue. There is dialogue between, there's dialogue between Israelis and Hamas. It's just, it's behind the scenes. It's in the shadows. We've had 3 wars in the last less than 6 years. We've had all kinds of military actions. We've had many rocket attacks. And we've had many ceasefires. And how do you think those ceasefires happened? So, okay, so Egypt brokered it, or the US brokered it, but the Israelis and the Hamas were having some discussions and coming to agreement. So, another example is Gilad Shalit, the Israeli soldier who was kidnapped, who was held as a prisoner of war for 5 years and was released a few years ago. It was an Israeli Jew who met with a Hamas member over months in Europe and secured his release. So it happens. So we just have to acknowledge that the other person on the other side we have to start getting away from only looking at them as enemy. And it's not that, and again, it's not that I have no love lost for the Hamas, but they live there, they're there. And right now they are in charge. So if my life is a lot dependent on them. And if we're never in any kinds of talk or negotiations, it's only going to get worse for us and for them. And the part about the Oslo, that's a difficult question. November 4th, last week, marked 19 years that our Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, was assassinated by a Jewish Israeli. And it was a very sad week for me because I remember that week very well. I remember that very well. And I can't believe that it's already 19 years, next year's 20 years. And we are so far from any kind of peace negotiation. We are so far. Because in the mid-90s, the Palestinians, I don't want to say they were our friends, but wow, it was different. It was really different. I remember that the Oslo Accords were signed on the White House lawn on September 13th, 1993. Everybody remembers that or has seen that famous picture with Clinton and Rabin and Arafat. And that month, I remember looking at a newspaper. I used to read them. I used to actually hold a newspaper, not like now, just online. And in the newspaper, it was about the Oslo Accords in the picture. And it was Madonna's going to come and perform in Israel. And Michael Jackson's going to come and perform in Israel. And I said, wait a minute, what country am I in now? You know, I mean, it was like, it was a whole different world. And today it doesn't exist at all. So what we need to do, we need to bolster the moderate voices. This is what we need to do, because the extremists used to be the extremists, and now they've become mainstream, or they become the focus of our attention. We need to move them back to the extremities and work with moderates, and there are many, many moderates that would negotiate and that would talk. If you ask people on the ground, they want it, they're ready. How do we get the leaders to do that? That's the $1 million question.